The space station hung in the darkness like a massive wheel of light. Confluence Prime was the largest neutral station in the galaxy, built by 7 different species working together. Today it would host something that had never happened before. Every major species in the known galaxy was coming here for one purpose: to show their strength. Ambassador Daniel Carter stood at the viewing port of the human transport ship, watching the station grow larger as they approached. He was a tall man with gray hair at his temples and calm brown eyes. He had been a diplomat for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The station was already crowded with alien ships of every size and shape. "Dad, can you see the big one?" a small voice asked beside him. Daniel looked down at his daughter Sophie. She was 8 years old, with her mother's blonde hair tied in 2 ponytails. She pressed her face against the viewing port, her breath making small circles of fog on the glass. In her arms, she held a plastic pet carrier. Inside, an orange tabby cat named Mr. Whiskers meowed softly. "I see it, sweetheart," Daniel said. "That's a Kralix warship. It's about 5 times the size of our transport." "Wow," Sophie whispered. She wasn't scared. She was excited. Lisa Monroe walked up behind them. She was the human cultural attaché. A woman in her early 30s with sharp green eyes and dark hair. She carried a tablet that showed her the schedule for the next few days. "Ambassador, we're docking in 15 minutes, Lisa said. "The Kralix delegation has already arrived. So have the Vorthene, the Zendari, and about 40 other species." "What did they bring?" Daniel asked. Lisa's expression became serious. "Exactly what we expected. Each species brought their homeworld's apex predator. The Kralix have something they call a render beast. Early reports say it's about 4 meters tall with armor plating and venomous spines. The Vorthene brought 3 pack hunters that hunt with telepathy. The Zendari have a crystalline creature that can walk through walls." Daniel nodded slowly. He had known this would happen. The Galactic Council had sent out a very specific invitation. Each species was asked to bring a representative of their world's strength. Most species had interpreted this to mean their most dangerous predator. "And we brought Mr. Whiskers," Sophie said happily, lifting the carrier a bit. The cat meowed again, louder this time. Lisa smiled despite herself. "Yes, we did. Are you sure about this, Ambassador?" asked Jake Phillips, the station security liaison who had joined them for the trip. He was a stocky man with short black hair and worried eyes. "I've seen the reports. Some of these creatures are incredibly dangerous. Bringing a child to this summit?" "Sophie will be perfectly safe," Daniel said. His voice was firm but kind. "And yes, I'm sure about this." Jake didn't look convinced, but he nodded. He had learned not to argue with Daniel Carter when the ambassador's mind was made up. The transport ship docked smoothly. The airlocks connected with a series of heavy clangs and hisses. Daniel picked up his diplomatic case with one hand and took Sophie's free hand with the other. Lisa gathered her tablets and files. Together they walked toward the exit. "Remember what we talked about?" Daniel asked his daughter quietly. "Be polite, make eye contact, and don't be scared," Sophie recited. "Even if they look scary, most aliens are nice. Just like people." "That's right," Daniel said proudly. The airlock door opened. They stepped into Confluence Prime. The docking bay was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high it disappeared in shadow. Hundreds of beings moved through the space, some walking, some floating, some slithering. The air smelled strange, like metal and exotic spices and things Daniel couldn't name. But what caught everyone's attention were the predators. Near the far wall, a group of Kralix warriors surrounded an enormous creature. The render beast stood on 6 legs, each one as thick as a tree trunk. Its body was covered in plates of natural armor that gleamed under the lights. Spines ran down its back, each one dripping with something that hissed when it hit the floor. The creature's head was all teeth and red eyes. Even from across the bay, Daniel could hear its breathing, like rocks grinding together. To the right, the Vorthene delegation had brought their hunters. 3 sleek creatures moved together, never more than a few meters apart. They looked like wolves crossed with lizards with silver scales and too many teeth. Their eyes glowed with an eerie blue light. As Daniel watched, all 3 heads turned toward him at exactly the same moment. They were sharing thoughts, hunting as one mind. The Zendari predator was harder to see. It looked like it was made of living crystal, its body constantly shifting and changing. As Daniel watched, it walked straight through a support pillar as if the metal wasn't there. Several smaller species backed away nervously. There were dozens more. Flying predators hung from the ceiling. Aquatic hunters swam in mobile tanks. Each one was more impressive and terrifying than the last. Wow, Sophie breathed. She wasn't scared at all. She was staring at everything with wide, fascinated eyes. They're so cool. Several nearby aliens stopped and stared at the humans. They looked at Daniel in his simple gray diplomatic suit. They looked at Lisa with her tablets and files. Then they looked at Sophie and the pet carrier she held. A Kralix warrior approached. He was over 2 meters tall with rough gray skin and 4 arms. His name was Ambassador Krell according to the translation device everyone wore. Human, Krell said. His voice sounded like rocks tumbling down a mountain. Where is your predator? Where is Earth's mighty hunter? He looked around, clearly expecting something huge and dangerous to be unloaded from the human ship. Daniel smiled calmly. She's right here, he said, gesturing to Sophie. Sophie waved. Hi, I'm Sophie. Krell stared. Then he laughed. It was a harsh barking sound. You brought a juvenile? A child? He laughed harder. And what is that tiny thing in the box? This is Mr. Whiskers, Sophie said proudly. She knelt down and opened the carrier door. A fat orange cat emerged, stretched lazily, and sat down to begin cleaning his paw. He's my cat. More aliens had gathered now. Some were laughing. Others looked confused. A few seemed concerned. The humans have made a mistake, called out an alien with too many eyes. Surely their real predator is still on the ship. There is no mistake, Lisa Monroe said clearly. Her voice carried across the bay. We brought exactly who we meant to bring. Sophie Carter and Mr. Whiskers represent Earth at this summit. The laughter grew louder. Even some of the more polite species seemed to be struggling not to smile. Ambassador Krell bent down until his face was level with Sophie's. He was trying to be intimidating. Little human, do you not understand? This is a gathering of strength. We brought our strongest hunters, our most dangerous predators. Your people brought a larva and a tiny beast that can't even hunt. Sophie looked up at him without fear. Mr. Whiskers can hunt, she said seriously. Last week he caught a mouse in our garden. And I'm not a larva. I'm 8 years old, Mr. Whiskers, as if to prove her point, stopped cleaning himself and stared directly at the massive render beast across the bay. The cat's pupils dilated. His ears turned forward. Then he simply stood up and began walking toward the Kralix predator. Sophie, keep him close, Daniel said calmly. But he made no move to stop the cat. Sophie picked up Mr. Whiskers, but the cat squirmed out of her arms and kept walking. Everyone in the bay watched as the small orange cat approached the enormous render beast. The Kralix warriors tensed. Their hands moved to weapons. The render beast noticed the cat approaching. It lowered its massive head, spines rising, a growl building in its chest. The sound was like an earthquake. Mr. Whiskers walked right up to the predator. The cat was so small compared to the beast that he could have walked under its belly. Mr. Whiskers sat down, tilted his head and stared up at the render beast with curious green eyes. Then the cat meowed. It was a small, questioning sound, not aggressive, just interested. The render beast stopped growling, its head tilted, mimicking the cat's gesture. It leaned down to smell the tiny creature. Mr. Whiskers stood on his back legs and touched his nose to the beast's snout. The render beast jerked back as if stung. It took 3 steps backward, its spines lowering. The massive predator made a sound like a whimper. Mr. Whiskers sat back down and began cleaning his paw again, completely unbothered. The laughter in the bay had stopped. Everyone was staring. What just happened? Whispered a Vorthine diplomat named Envoy Thessia. She was tall and thin with purple skin and silver eyes. Your predator just backed down from a cat, Lisa said simply. Sophie ran forward and scooped up Mr. Whiskers. Good boy, she said, kissing the top of his head. But you scared me. Don't run off like that. An old Zendari stepped forward. His crystalline body pulsed with slow rainbow colors. Humans, he said in a voice like wind chimes. Your choice is unusual. Will you explain why you brought a child and a small animal instead of a mighty predator? Daniel Carter looked around the bay at all the assembled species. He saw curiosity on some faces, contempt on others, and confusion on most. Elder Zix, Daniel said, bowing slightly to the Zendari. We brought exactly what represents Earth's true strength. If you'll give us a chance during the summit demonstrations, we'll show you why. This is foolishness, Krell growled. You waste our time with games and soft things. You should have brought something with teeth and claws. The human quarters on Confluence Prime were comfortable but simple. 3 rooms connected to a common area, all designed to accommodate various species' needs. Sophie had claimed the smallest bedroom immediately, setting up Mr. Whisker's food and water bowls in the corner. The cat had already found the sunniest spot on the floor and was napping. Daniel sat at the desk in the common area, reviewing his notes for the opening ceremony. Lisa paced back and forth, her tablet in hand, reading reports from the other delegations. "It's all over the station," Lisa said. "Every species is talking about us. The reactions are split about 60-40. 60% think we're fools?" Daniel asked. 60% think we're mocking them, Lisa corrected. The other 40% are just confused. A few are genuinely curious. She scrolled through her tablet. "The Kralix delegation has formally complained that we're not taking the summit seriously. The Vorthine are watching us carefully. The Zendari." She paused. "Elder Zix has requested a private meeting with you before the ceremony." Daniel looked up. "That's interesting." "The Zendari are the oldest species in the council," Lisa said. "If anyone might understand what we're doing, it would be them." A knock sounded at the door. Not a human-style knock, but the station's chime system that announced visitors. Daniel opened the door to find Elder Zix standing there alone. The Zendari's crystalline body glowed softly in the corridor light. "Ambassador Carter," Zix said in his wind chime voice. "May I enter?" "Of course, Elder," Daniel said, stepping aside. Zix moved into the room. He didn't walk so much as glide, his crystalline form shifting as he moved. He looked around the quarters with interest, his attention stopping on the open door to Sophie's room. The girl was sitting on the floor, drawing pictures with colored pencils while Mr. Whiskers slept nearby. "Your offspring is very calm," Zix observed. "Most young beings would be frightened in such a place surrounded by so many predators." "Sophie has grown up around different kinds of people," Daniel said. "She knows that looking different doesn't mean being dangerous." "Interesting," Zix said. He turned to face Daniel fully. "I have lived for 300 of your years, Ambassador. I have seen many species rise and fall. I have attended countless summits and negotiations, but I have never seen anyone bring a juvenile and a domestic animal to a demonstration of strength. Others think you mock us. I do not believe this, so I ask you directly, what is your purpose?" Daniel considered his answer carefully. "Elder Zix, what do you think strength is?" "A large question," Zix said. His body pulsed with different colors as he thought. "Most species believe strength is the ability to kill, to dominate, to survive against threats. And you? What do you believe?" "I believe strength has many forms," Zix said. "But I am curious which form you intend to demonstrate with a child and a cat." "The ability to build," Daniel said simply. "To teach, to trust, to love something vulnerable and help it grow strong." Zix was silent for a long moment. His colors shifted slowly from blue to green to gold. "A bold claim. Many here will not accept it." "I know," Daniel said. "But we're not here to tell people what to think. We're here to show them something different." "The child," Zix said, looking back toward Sophie's room. "She is not afraid." "No, she's not. And the small predator, the cat." It faced the render beast without hesitation. "Mr. Whiskers doesn't know he's small," Lisa said with a slight smile. "On Earth we have a saying, cats don't know they're not tigers." "Fascinating," Zix said. Then he bowed slightly, a human gesture he had learned. "I will watch your demonstration with great interest, Ambassador. I hope you survive it." After Zix left, Sophie came out of her room. "Was that the crystal alien? He's pretty." "He's called a Zendari," Daniel said. "And yes, Elder Zix is very wise." "When do we go to the big ceremony?" Sophie asked. Daniel checked his watch. "In 1 hour, are you ready?" "I think so," Sophie said. Then she bit her lip, a sign she was worried. "Dad, are people really mad at us?" Daniel knelt down to her level. "Some people are confused. They expected us to bring something scary. But we brought you and Mr. Whiskers because we wanted to show them what makes us proud to be human." And that's not how scary we can be. It's how caring we can be. Sophie nodded slowly. Like how you take care of me? Exactly like that, Daniel said, hugging her. The opening ceremony was held in the Grand Assembly Hall, a massive chamber at the station's center. Thousands of beings filled the tiered seating that rose up on all sides. In the middle of the floor, each delegation had a platform where they would present their representative. The human delegation entered to a mix of reactions. Some aliens whispered to each other, others laughed openly. A few watched in silence, waiting to see what would happen. Ambassador Krell stood on the Kralix platform with his arms crossed. His render beast was in a reinforced containment field behind him, still looking dangerous even behind the shimmer of energy. When he saw the humans, he laughed his harsh, barking laugh. The humans have brought their tiny creatures, he announced loudly. Perhaps they will entertain us with tricks. Several species laughed with him, but not all. The Pelin delegation, the same herbivore species Sophie had met in the docking bay, watched with interest. So did the Zendari, and the Vorthine, though they didn't laugh, were paying very close attention. High Chancellor Vex of the Zendari stood at the center of the floor. He was even older than Elder Zix, his crystalline body threaded with dark lines like the rings of an ancient tree. We gather here today, Vex announced in a voice that filled the hall, to demonstrate what makes each of our peoples strong. Strength comes in many forms. Today we will see which forms are most impressive. One by one, the delegations presented their predators. Each one was incredible in its own way. The Kralix demonstrated how their render beast could tear through reinforced steel with its claws. The energy field containing it flickered as the beast struck again and again. The Vorthine showed how their three-pack hunters could coordinate perfectly through their telepathic link, taking down synthetic prey in seconds with terrifying efficiency. The Zendari's crystal predator demonstrated its ability to phase through any solid matter, making it nearly impossible to contain or escape from. A species called the Thornax brought a flying predator with wings like knives. The Aquarius showed off a deep-sea hunter with bioelectric abilities. On and on it went, each predator more impressive than the last. The audience cheered and gasped. Some of the herbivore species looked genuinely frightened. Even the predator species seemed impressed by each other's representatives. Finally, it was the humans' turn. Daniel, Lisa, and Sophie walked to their platform. Jake Phillips stood to the side with station security, watching nervously. Sophie carried Mr. Whiskers in her arms. The cat was awake now, looking around at all the noise and lights with typical feline curiosity. The hall grew quiet. Everyone wanted to see what the humans would do. People of the Galactic Council, Daniel began. His voice was calm and clear. Earth is what you call a death world. Our planet has more predators than most worlds in the galaxy. We have creatures with teeth longer than your arm. We have hunters that can chase prey for days without stopping. We have animals that could tear apart most beings in this room. The audience leaned forward. Maybe the humans had brought something dangerous after all. But we didn't bring any of those creatures today, Daniel continued. Instead, we brought my daughter Sophie, who is 8 years old, and we brought her cat, Mr. Whiskers, who is 3 years old and weighs 5 kilograms. The confusion returned. Krell laughed again. Yes, we can all see your tiny beasts, human. Is this your entire demonstration? No, Lisa said, stepping forward. Sophie has prepared a presentation. We ask that you listen to what she has to say. A holographic display activated above their platform. Sophie had made a presentation with pictures and simple words. She stepped up to the microphone holding Mr. Whiskers and began to speak. Her voice was small but clear. Hi everyone, Sophie said. My name is Sophie and this is my cat, Mr. Whiskers. I want to tell you about humans and cats and why we're friends. The first image appeared. It showed an ancient wolf and a human sitting by a fire. A long, long time ago, Sophie explained. Humans lived in caves. Wolves were predators that hunted us. But humans were smart. We didn't kill all the wolves. Instead, we made friends with some of them. We fed them and kept them warm. The wolves protected us and helped us hunt. After many, many years, wolves became dogs. Now dogs are our best friends. The next image showed a cat sitting in an ancient grain storage building. Cats were different, Sophie continued. They were hunters who lived alone. But humans grew food, and food attracted mice. Cats came to hunt the mice. Humans let them stay. We gave them food and safe places to sleep. After a long time, cats decided they liked living with us. Now we love cats, and cats love us. She held up Mr. Whiskers. This is important. Mr. Whiskers is a predator. He has claws and teeth. He can hunt. But he chooses to live with me. He sleeps in my bed. He purrs when I'm sad. When I'm scared at night, he stays close to me. The audience was completely quiet now. Even Krell had stopped laughing. Dr. Alan Foster, the human xenobiologist, stepped forward to add context. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. What Sophie is telling you is this, Dr. Foster explained. Humans. The second day of the summit began with practical demonstrations. High Chancellor Vex had announced that each species would show how their representatives performed actual tasks. It was one thing to look impressive. It was another to be useful. The demonstrations would take place in the station's largest training facility, a huge space designed to simulate different environments. Hundreds of aliens filled the observation decks above, watching as each delegation prepared. Ambassador Krell stood with his render beast, looking confident. The massive creature's spines gleamed under the lights. Other delegations had their predators ready as well. The Vorthene pack hunters paced in perfect synchronization. The Zendari crystal predator flickered in and out of visibility. The human delegation stood to one side. Sophie wore a simple blue dress and comfortable shoes. Mr. Whiskers was on a leash, though he kept trying to chase a beam of light reflecting off someone's watch. Daniel and Lisa stood behind Sophie, calm and ready. First demonstration, announced High Chancellor Vex. Hunting efficiency. Each predator will pursue synthetic prey through the simulated environment. Time and technique will be evaluated. The Kralix went first. The render beast was released into a forest simulation. Synthetic creatures that looked like deer ran between the trees. The beast charged forward with incredible speed for something so large. It crashed through trees, its claws tearing through the synthetic prey in seconds. The whole demonstration took less than 2 minutes. The crowd cheered. It was brutal and efficient. The Vorthene went next. Their 3 pack hunters spread out, communicating silently through their telepathic link. They herded the prey into a trap, then struck from 3 sides at once. It was beautiful and terrifying to watch. They finished even faster than the Kralix. More predators took their turns. Each one showed impressive hunting skills. Then it was the humans' turn. Sophie walked into the simulation with Mr. Whiskers on his leash. The forest appeared around them. Synthetic prey animals ran past. Mr. Whiskers sat down and yawned. The human predator does nothing. Someone called from the observation deck. Sophie unclipped the leash. Go on, Mr. Whiskers, go hunt. The cat looked at her, looked at the running prey, then walked over to a sunny spot and lay down. Laughter filled the observation deck. This is ridiculous, Krell shouted. The tiny beast refuses to hunt. That's because he's not hungry, Sophie explained patiently. I fed him this morning. Cats only hunt when they need to or when they want to play. She pulled a small toy from her pocket, a fake mouse on a string. She dragged it along the ground. Immediately, Mr. Whiskers' eyes locked onto it. His pupils dilated. He crouched low. Then he pounced, catching the toy in his claws. See? He can hunt, Sophie said. He just doesn't need to hunt real things. We play hunt instead. This proves nothing, an alien called out. Dr. Foster stepped forward. Actually, it proves something very important. Sophie's cat doesn't hunt unless he chooses to. He trusts that his needs will be met. That's what domestication means. That's what humans did. We took predators and made them partners instead of threats. Useless partners, Krell muttered. The first demonstration was about hunting, High Chancellor Vex announced. The human cat did not hunt. This is noted, but Elder Zix spoke up from his observation position. Yet the child was in an environment with multiple prey animals, and she was never attacked. The prey ignored her. Why? It was a good question. In all the other demonstrations, the synthetic prey had run from the predators, but with Sophie they had simply moved around her. The simulation recognizes predator signatures. Jake Phillips explained from his position with security. Sophie doesn't register as a predator to the program. Interesting, Elder Zick said quietly. The second demonstration was problem-solving. Each predator would be placed in a puzzle room. They had to figure out how to escape. The render beast smashed through the walls. That worked. The Vorthene pack hunters used their telepathy to coordinate and solve the puzzle quickly. Also effective. The crystal predator simply phased through the walls. Simple and efficient. When Sophie and Mr. Whiskers entered the puzzle room, Sophie studied the setup. It was a room with colored panels on the floor. Stepping on them in the right order would open the door. Okay, Mr. Whiskers, Sophie said. We need to figure this out. She studied the room for a moment, then started pointing to panels. Red, blue, yellow, green. That's rainbow order. Let me try. She walked across the panels in order. Nothing happened. Sophie said. She tried different combinations. Meanwhile, Mr. Whiskers walked across the panels randomly, chasing a dust mote in the air. By pure chance, he stepped on the right combination. The door opened. Good job, Mr. Whiskers, Sophie said, scooping him up. The child solved the puzzle with the help of luck, Envoy Thessia observed. But she showed patience. She tried multiple solutions. She didn't give up. She's 8 years old, Lisa pointed out. Most 8-year-olds from any species would have gotten frustrated. Sophie stayed calm. The third demonstration was defense. Each predator would protect their handler from a simulated attack. This was where things got interesting. The render beast, when its handler was threatened, went berserk. It attacked the simulated threat with such fury that the safety systems nearly shut down the simulation. The handler had to scramble to avoid being hit by his own predator's attacks. The Vorthene pack hunters defended their handler efficiently, but in the process they surrounded him so completely that he couldn't move. He was protected but trapped. Other predators showed similar problems. They were so aggressive in defense that they made things difficult for the ones they were supposed to protect. When the simulation started for Sophie, a holographic creature appeared and moved toward her menacingly. It was designed to look scary with too many teeth and glowing red eyes. Sophie took a step back, but she didn't run. She held Mr. Whiskers closer. Mr. Whiskers, feeling Sophie's arms tighten around him, looked at what was scaring her. The cat's ears went back. His fur puffed up. He made a sound that many aliens had never heard before, a cat's hiss. It wasn't loud. It wasn't particularly scary to the aliens watching, but it was protective. Mr. Whiskers was warning the threat to stay away from his human. Sophie spoke to the holographic creature. Please don't come closer. You're scaring me. The simulation was programmed to respond to fear by advancing, but Sophie did something unexpected. She sat down on the ground, still holding her cat. It's okay, Mr. Whiskers, she said softly. It's not real. Remember what Dad said? It's just a test. The hologram kept advancing. When it got close, Mr. Whiskers swiped at it with his claws. His paw went right through the hologram, of course. But the intent was clear. The cat was trying to protect Sophie. The small predator defends the child, an alien observed. Yes, Dr. Foster said. That's what cats do. They're small, but they're brave. They protect their family. But the child could not defend herself, Krell argued. She just sat there. She's 8 years old, Daniel said firmly. She's not supposed to defend herself. She's supposed to be protected. That's what childhood is for. Learning and growing in safety. Weak, Krell muttered. But Lisa stepped forward. Is it weak to invest years in raising your young? Is it weak to teach them slowly, carefully, with patience? Human children take years to grow up. We don't rush them. We protect them while they learn. By the time they're adults, they know not just how to survive, but how to think, how to build, how to work with others. Your young take too long to mature, said a species that reached adulthood in 2 years. It's inefficient. Maybe, Daniel agreed. But our young learn more. They can adapt to more situations. They can solve problems in creative ways. That's the trade-off. Sophie stood up, still holding Mr. Whiskers. I'm not scared anymore, she announced to the simulation. Because I know my dad is watching and Mr. Whiskers is here and I'm safe. The simulation ended. In the observation deck, the reactions were mixed. Some aliens still thought the humans were weak, but others were starting to understand something. Elder Zick spoke quietly to another Zendari. Notice how the child showed fear but controlled it. Notice how she comforted herself and her companion. Notice how she understood the situation even while afraid. The small predator stayed with her even when threatened. The other Zendari replied. It did not flee. It chose to remain and defend. Yes, Elder Zik said. Chosen loyalty. Not forced. Not trained through fear. Chosen. The demonstrations continued. There was a test for following commands. The Kralix Render Beast obeyed through fear and punishment. The Vorthine Hunters obeyed through their telepathic link. Other species showed various methods of control. Sophie and Mr. Whiskers showed something different. Mr. Whiskers, come here, Sophie called. The cat was across the room investigating something. Mr. Whiskers looked at her. Then he continued investigating. Mr. Whiskers, Sophie said more firmly, please come here. I need you. The cat thought about it for a moment, then trotted over to her. Good boy, Sophie said, scratching behind his ears. Mr. Whiskers purred loudly. The predator did not obey immediately, an alien noted. It questioned the command. Yes, Lisa said. Cats are independent. They're not dogs. They don't obey automatically, but they come when they know you really need them. They choose to help. What if it refuses? Asked a curious alien. The third day of the summit started with tension in the air. Word had spread about Ambassador Krell's formal challenge. Nobody knew exactly what he planned, but everyone knew it would be confrontational. The morning session was held in a different part of the station, a large multi-environment habitat designed to showcase how different species adapted to various conditions. Each delegation would demonstrate how their representative handled changing situations. Sophie wore practical clothes today, sturdy pants and a comfortable shirt. Daniel had explained that today might be more active. Mr. Whiskers rode in a small backpack carrier that Sophie wore, his head poking out so he could see everything. He seemed quite content with this arrangement. The various predators were brought into the habitat one at a time. The render beast struggled when the environment changed to water, thrashing angrily. The Vorthine pack hunters adapted quickly, their telepathic link helping them coordinate. The crystal predator simply phased through obstacles, unbothered by any environmental changes. When Sophie's turn came, she walked into the habitat with Mr. Whiskers. The environment started as a simple forest. Easy enough. Then it shifted to a desert. Sophie squinted in the bright simulated sun but kept walking. Mr. Whiskers meowed unhappily in the heat. It's okay, Mr. Whiskers, Sophie said. It's just pretend. We'll be done soon. The environment changed again, this time to a cold, icy area. Sophie shivered but kept going. She took off her jacket and wrapped it around the backpack carrier to keep Mr. Whiskers warm. The child sacrifices her own comfort for the small predator. Elder Zix observed. The environment changed several more times. Sophie adapted each time, sometimes struggling but never giving up. When the test ended, she was tired but smiling. That was like a really weird adventure, she said cheerfully. But then something went wrong. The habitat's control systems, stressed from running so many different simulations for so many different species, began to malfunction. Warning alarms blared throughout the station. The environmental controls in the habitat went haywire, and the containment fields holding the predators failed. It happened fast. One moment, each predator was in its designated safe zone. The next moment, the energy barriers flickered and died. The predators found themselves loose in the habitat together, along with dozens of aliens who had been watching from ground level. The render beast roared, confused and angry. The Vorthine pack hunters immediately formed a defensive circle, seeing threats everywhere. The crystal predator began phasing in and out of sight, disoriented by the sudden chaos. Other predators from other delegations, each one dangerous in its own way, suddenly had no barriers between them. Evacuation. Commander Ben Hayes shouted over the station-wide communications. All personnel evacuate the habitat immediately. Security teams respond. Panic erupted. Aliens ran in every direction trying to reach the exits. But the predators, confused and feeling threatened, reacted on instinct. The render beast charged at anything that moved. The Vorthine hunters began coordinating an attack, seeing all the other predators as threats to eliminate. Sophie was in the middle of it all. Sophie, Daniel shouted. He was on an observation platform above, separated from his daughter by a wall of chaos. Stay where you are. Don't move. But Sophie couldn't hear him over the alarms and the roaring. She stood frozen. Mr. Whiskers clutched in her arms. The cat's ears were flat against his head, but he wasn't trying to escape. He stayed with Sophie, even though he was clearly scared. A Kralix handler tried to reach the render beast, but the massive creature didn't recognize him in its confused state. It swung one huge claw, sending the handler flying. The Vorthine hunters were advancing on a group of smaller aliens who had been backed into a corner. The crystal predator was phasing through anything in its path, causing more panic. "We have to get to her," Daniel yelled at Jake Phillips. "Security is trying to establish control, but it's chaos down there," Jake replied, his face pale. "The predators are too mixed up. Too many different species in one place. They're all fighting or fleeing." Lisa grabbed Daniel's arm. "Look." In the middle of the chaos, Sophie had started moving. Not running away. She was walking toward something. A small alien child had fallen near the render beast. It was a Pelin juvenile, barely bigger than Sophie, with soft blue fur. The little alien was crying, frozen with fear as the massive predator turned toward it. "No, no, no," Daniel breathed. "Sophie, don't." But Sophie was already moving. She ran toward the Pelin child, her arm still holding Mr. Whiskers. Everything seemed to happen in slow motion. Sophie reached the Pelin child and dropped to her knees beside it. "It's okay," she said, her voice somehow calm despite her own fear. "I'm here. You're not alone." The render beast loomed over them both, its massive head lowering, its red eyes focused on the two small figures. Its mouth opened, showing rows of teeth. Mr. Whiskers did something extraordinary. The small orange cat, who weighed maybe 5 kilograms, jumped out of Sophie's arms. He placed himself between Sophie and the massive predator. His fur stood completely on end, making him look bigger. He arched his back, and he made a sound that no one watching would ever forget. It wasn't just a hiss. It was a pure, concentrated expression of protective fury. It said, "You will not touch my human." The render beast stopped. Its head tilted. This tiny creature was challenging it, this small thing that it could crush with one step. But there was something in that sound. Something primal. The absolute certainty of a predator defending its territory, its pack, its family. Size didn't matter. Fear didn't matter. All that mattered was protection. The render beast took a step back. "I can't believe this," Commander Hayes whispered from the security station. "That cat just faced down the render beast." Sophie used that moment. She picked up Mr. Whiskers with one hand and helped the Pelin child up with the other. "We need to go," she said firmly. "Come with me." The Pelin child nodded, too scared to speak. Sophie, still holding her cat and now holding the alien child's hand, started walking toward the nearest exit. She didn't run. Running would trigger the predator's chase instincts. She walked steadily, calmly, her head up. And something amazing happened. The predators, so aggressive moments before, stopped attacking. They watched as this small human child walked through the chaos, protecting an even smaller alien. The Vorthine pack hunters, who had been advancing on a cornered group, paused. The crystal predator solidified, watching. Even the render beast simply stood there, watching Sophie walk past. "They're confused," Dr. Foster said, watching from the observation deck. "Their hunting instincts are telling them to chase fear. But she's not showing fear. She's showing protection. They don't know how to respond." Captain Nina Ross, the human security officer, took advantage of the moment. "All security teams move now. Get the civilians to safety while the predators are calm." Security from multiple species rushed in. They herded the panicked aliens toward exits. Medical teams rushed to help the injured. And through it all, Sophie kept walking. One small steady point in the chaos. She reached the exit and passed the Pelin child to its parents, who were crying with relief. Then she turned back. "There are more people scared in there," she said to a security officer. "We have to help them. Sophie, no." Daniel had finally reached the ground level. He ran to his daughter and swept her into his arms. "You could have been killed." "But I wasn't," Sophie said. She was shaking now, the adrenaline catching up with her.
"Dad, that little kid was so scared."
"I had to help." "I know, baby, I know," Daniel said, holding her tight. Mr. Whiskers meowed indignantly at being squished between them. It took another 20 minutes for security to fully regain control. They used tranquilizers on the most aggressive predators and managed to get the others back into temporary containment. Miraculously, while several beings were injured, no one had been killed. The habitat was evacuated and sealed. The injured were taken to medical facilities. And every single person on that station was talking about what they had witnessed. Commander Hayes called an emergency meeting of all delegations in the main assembly hall. Species were angry, scared, and demanding answers about the containment failure. But before the official discussions could begin, something unexpected happened. The Pellin delegation stood up. Their leader, a dignified being named First Mother Tillin, spoke clearly. Before we discuss the mechanical failures, we must discuss what we witnessed. A human child, small and vulnerable, ran into danger to save my grandchild. She had every reason to run to safety, but she chose to help. She looked directly at the human delegation. Ambassador Carter, your daughter saved my grandchild's life. We are forever grateful. Ambassador Krell stood up. His face was hard to read, but his voice was strained. The small human child showed. He paused, struggling with the words. She showed courage. My render beast, the pride of Kralix, backed away from a tiny earth cat because that cat was protecting its human. I do not understand this, but I cannot deny what I saw. Envoy Thessia of the Vorthene spoke next. My pack hunters are trained to kill anything that threatens us. But they stopped when they saw the human child protecting the Pellin juvenile. They stopped because their instincts told them that something was wrong about attacking one who protects the weak. The day after the incident, the station felt different. The atmosphere had changed from competitive tension to something quieter, more thoughtful. Aliens walked the corridors with less swagger, more consideration. Many were still processing what they had witnessed. Daniel Carter sat in his quarters reviewing messages. Dozens of delegation leaders had requested private meetings. News of the incident had already spread beyond Confluence Prime to homeworlds across the galaxy. The images of Sophie protecting the Pellin child while Mr. Whiskers faced down the render beast were being shared. Everywhere. We're getting communication. Requests from governments that weren't. Even at the summit, Lisa said, scrolling through her tablet. They want to know more about human child-rearing practices. About domestication. About our relationship with predators. Some are scared, Jake Phillips added. He had been monitoring security channels. They're realizing that if humans can turn predators into loyal companions, and if human children are raised to run toward danger instead of away from it, then humans might be more formidable than they thought. That wasn't the point, Daniel said quietly. I know, Jake replied, but it's what some are thinking. Sophie came out of her bedroom, Mr. Whiskers following her. The cat hadn't left her side since the incident. He stayed close, sometimes rubbing against her legs, sometimes just sitting nearby and watching her. Dad, Elder Zix is at the door, Sophie said. He asked if he could come in. Daniel nodded, and Sophie opened the door. The ancient Zendari glided into the room, his crystalline body pulsing with gentle colors. Ambassador Carter, Zix said, and young Sophie, I came to speak with you before the final assembly. Of course, Elder, Daniel said, gesturing to a seat. Zix settled himself, his form adjusting to a comfortable position. I have lived 300 years, Zix began. I have seen the rise and fall of civilizations. I have witnessed wars and peace, creation and destruction. Yesterday I saw something I have never seen before. He looked at Sophie. Child, do you understand what you did? Sophie thought about it. I helped someone who was scared. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Most species would say the correct action is to preserve yourself first, Zix said. Protect your own life before others. Especially protect your own species before alien species. But she was just a little kid, Sophie said simply. She was scared. I couldn't just leave her, why not? Zix asked. It wasn't a challenge. He genuinely wanted to understand. Sophie struggled to find the words. Because that's what makes us people. We help each other. My dad says that the best thing about humans is that we can choose to care about anyone, even if they're different from us, even if they're aliens. Zix's colors shifted to a deep, warm gold. And your small predator, the cat. It chose to defend you against a creature hundreds of times its size. Why? Because Mr. Whiskers loves me, Sophie said. And I love him. That's what family does. Family, Zix repeated. But you are different species. You are predator and predator. By all logic of nature, you should be competitors. Perhaps even enemies. But we're not, Sophie said, picking up Mr. Whiskers and holding him. We're friends. We take care of each other. Zix turned to Daniel. This is what you wanted us to understand. Not just that humans can domesticate predators, but that humans can create bonds of genuine love and loyalty across species boundaries. Yes, Daniel said. That's exactly it. When we were invited to show our strength, we knew everyone would bring predators. weapons, shows of force. But we wanted to show something different. We wanted to show what we build instead of what we destroy. And it nearly got your child killed, Zix pointed out. No, Daniel said firmly. The containment failure nearly got people killed. Sophie's actions saved lives, including her own. The predators stopped because they saw something they couldn't understand. A small being protecting an even smaller one. It confused their instincts. That confusion gave security time to act. Do all human children behave this way? Zix asked. We try to teach them to, Lisa said. Not all learn it. Not all remember it as they grow older. But we try. We teach that protecting others is more important than protecting yourself. We teach that kindness is strength, not weakness. Zix stood. The council will reconvene in 2 hours for the final assembly. I believe today will be remembered for a long time. He paused at the door. Young Sophie, you have taught an old being something new. That is a rare gift. After Zix left, delegations began arriving to speak with the humans one by one. First, Mother Tillin of the Pelin came with her grandchild, the small blue-furred juvenile that Sophie had saved. The little Pelin was shy but curious. Her name is Mira, Tillin explained. She wanted to meet Sophie again. To say thank you properly, Sophie knelt down to Mira's level. Hi Mira, are you okay? Were you scared? Mira nodded, speaking in a soft, chirping voice that the translation device converted. I was very scared. But you helped me, why? Because you needed help, Sophie said. That's enough reason. On my world, we do not often see such courage, Tillin said. We are prey species. We have been hunted for thousands of generations. We survive by hiding, by running, by avoiding conflict. The idea of running toward danger to help another. She paused. It is beyond what we thought possible. Anyone can be brave when they need to be, Sophie said. Then she had an idea. Do you want to meet Mr. Whiskers? He's really nice. Mira looked at the cat nervously. He is a predator. Yes, but he's a nice predator, Sophie said. Here, watch. She held Mr. Whiskers so Mira could see him. The cat looked at the small Pelin child and, sensing her nervousness, began to purr loudly. That sound means he's happy and safe. You can touch him if you want. Hesitantly, Mira reached out one small hand and touched Mr. Whiskers' fur. The cat leaned into the touch, purring louder. Mira's eyes went wide with wonder. He is soft, Mira whispered. And the sound? It is comforting. That's what cats are good at, Sophie said proudly, making people feel better. Over the next hour, more delegations came. Some brought gifts. Some brought questions. Some just wanted to talk. A warrior species called the Thornax admitted that they had been wrong to judge the humans as weak. An aquatic species asked detailed questions about how humans managed to domesticate land predators when humans were also land predators. Ambassador Krell came last. The large Krallic stood in the doorway looking uncomfortable. Ambassador Carter, he said formally. I came to speak. Please come in, Daniel said. Krell entered but remained standing. He looked at Sophie. Small human. You showed courage that I did not expect. You ran toward danger when wiser beings ran from it. My render beast, the pride of my people, backed away from your tiny cat. This troubles me. Why? Sophie asked. Because it means I was wrong, Krell said. The words seemed difficult for him. I thought strength was only about size and power and the ability to kill. I thought bringing a child and a small animal was mockery. I was wrong, he paused, then continued. The Krallics value strength above all things. But we have never considered that raising young ones with love and trust requires a different kind of strength, a kind we do not have. You could learn, Sophie said. It's not too hard. You just have to care about people and show it. Krell made a sound that might have been a laugh. Simple words. Hard actions. But perhaps we should try. He looked at Daniel. The Krallics will support the new alliance framework. With one condition. What condition? Daniel asked. That humans teach us about this kind of strength. How to raise our young with trust. How to make loyal companions instead of forced servants. We wish to learn. After Krell left, Daniel looked at Lisa. Did that just happen? I think the Krallics just asked for parenting advice, Lisa said, sounding amazed. From us. The final assembly was packed. Every delegation was present, plus observers from dozens of other species who had arrived after hearing about the summit. The Grand Assembly Hall buzzed with conversation. High Chancellor Vex called the meeting to order. His crystalline body glowed brightly, commanding attention. We have come to the end of this historic summit, Vex announced. We asked each species to demonstrate their strength. We have seen predators of incredible power and capability. We have seen hunting prowess, defensive abilities, and tactical thinking, but we have also seen something unexpected. He gestured toward the human delegation. The humans brought a child and a domesticated predator. Many laughed. Many were confused. Some were angry, thinking it was mockery. But then something happened. A crisis emerged, and in that crisis we saw true strength. Vex's voice grew stronger. We saw a child risk her life for an alien she had never met. We saw a small predator face impossible odds to protect its human. We saw courage that came not from size or power, but from love and compassion. And we saw every predator in that habitat stop, confused, because their instincts did not know how to respond to such selfless protection. Elder Zix stood. I move that we restructure the Alliance framework. Strength comes in many forms. We should value not just the power to destroy, but the power to protect. Not just the ability to dominate, but the ability to nurture. The humans have shown us that the greatest strength might be the ability to extend family bonds across species. I second this motion, First Mother Tillin said. My people have lived in